childhood. And, you know, I think the first time that I spoke to you, maybe 15 years ago, I was starstruck. I was like, oh my gosh, talking to Slim Goodbody. So I'm really excited to share your work, your expertise with our Facebook community today, because you've done so many amazing things. So I'm excited for all of you that are able to hear this. Now, if you have any questions or comments, please let us know. I will do my best to get them to John so he could answer them to us today. So John, do us a little bit of a favor and walk us through those early days. From what I know, you were working at a hospital and you were looking for some ways to engage with the children there. And could you tell us a little bit more about how Slim Goodbody started?
Well, I had a summer job on a ship called the Floating Hospital. It was in New York. I was studying acting. And I had a summer job, and the job was to play music. I was also a musician on board this ship. Now, the Floating Hospital took disadvantaged children, families, on a one-day sort of trip around Manhattan Island for free. It was a charity, and on board were doctors and dentists and other health professionals. And the idea was to give people free medical care, and if there was a problem, then they would refer them. My job was to create a sort of friendly environment on the ship, which involved my standing at the top of the gangplank, singing songs as people filed on, and walking through the ship, and you know, gathering people together to do little sing-alongs and stuff. And each week, the ship had a theme of the week. So I decided I would write songs for the themes of the week, and I did. And then I was in acting class one day, and I was playing them. Somebody said, you know, you ought to sell those songs to Sesame Street. And I said, well, you know, maybe I can figure out a character that I can bring to Sesame Street. So I thought, I came up with the idea of Slim Goodbody, a costume character that could sing these songs. And I went to a dance costumer, modern dance costumer, and we talked about it and created the first Slim Goodbody suit, which was an interesting experience. I mean, in those days, I had to actually be in the suit as they painted it on me with Tintex dye, which then had to be set. And so I created the character. I had some songs. Then I had to figure out what to do with them. And I started doing shows in schools with those songs. At the same time, I got a few write-ups because it was such a weird thing to do, that, you know, to see somebody in that kind of suit. And I got an opportunity to, actually, just out of the blue, somebody saw an article of mine about me, and McGraw-Hill asked me if I'd like to write a book for kids. I mean, that was great, and I did that. And then I found I did a lot of local talk shows, you know. And then I got an agent named Arnold Goodman, which I thought was very fortuitous since it was Slim Goodbody. And Arnold found out that Kraft Foods was looking to do a show for kids. And they didn't really know what they wanted to do. So he put me in touch with a writer who came up with this whole concept called The Adventures of Slim Goodbody in Neutral City, making a sort of superhero with an alter ego of Chief Helen Hardy and puppet villains. And so we did that, and I got onto Captain Kangaroo, my own segment twice a week. And then more stories came, and based upon that, somebody saw an article in a flight magazine for TWA, and that was my first PBS series. And then basically I just kept working. Whatever opportunity I could find that you could put a human being in. I did shows in theaters, in science centers all over the country, in their planetariums. I took Slim Goodbody to outer space. Then what became a very favorite thing of mine was I created a symphony show with the Body Symphony. And I toured with symphony orchestras as Slim, teaching kids about classical music and good health at the same time. So it's pretty.
I love how you've taken your concept and you just really applied it to so many different areas, curriculum, opportunities. It really shows, in terms of what we've done together. I mean, it just speaks to that. I was pulling earlier today, I pulled a list of all of the different series that we've licensed from you, John. So, imagine all of the different content we have: Life Skills 101, Deskercise, Word Power, Earth Alert, We the People, Extreme Questions, This Day in History, Health Tips, Algebra in Action, Math Monsters, Inside Story, Readily, Deedly. A lot of these are available in Spanish as well. I mean, when it comes to that early elementary content, you've really done so many different types of subject areas and curriculum. But one of the things that I've found really resonates with all of your different series, and I do think you were quite ahead of the time with, is that, in today's world, social emotional learning is such a key concept that we're trying to bridge into all of our learning. But you did that right from the start. That was always something that you included, addressing really the whole child, bringing health, but, whether or not it was, talking about bullying, how to be a good person, you've managed to pull that into all your curriculum, which is I think part of the lasting effect of why everyone loves content. Kids feel really special and important when they watch your content. So just to go back, because I think your costume, is so unique. I know as a child, I was like, gosh, that is so cool. I've tried to bite my tongue. I'm going to admit it many times around Halloween and not ask you to borrow it. But how do you have that first costume? Where is it? Where
I
do you
do. I have the first costume. I think there have been somewhere between 7 and 10 iterations of the costume over the years. The first ones were the first ones were mostly more shapes than I was never going to be Grey's Anatomy. I never wanted it to be sort of scary. I always wanted it to be sort of superhero-esque. I still have that first costume. Then for a while, I did shows. I had a woman, Slenda, in a couple of shows with me. I had a costume made for her.
Sure.
I found a great costume person. I was having costumes made by the same people who did Star Trek Next Generation. A good friend of mine is Jonathan Frakes, who played Commander Riker on that show. But and that became more of a uniform kind of thing. These costumes cost anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000 at the time, and I think I have them all. Speaking of Halloween, I did get approached once by a company who wanted to make a Halloween costume, and I gave permission. And then I thought, no, it was a great idea, but then I was afraid that somebody would run around, do something really stupid in the costume, and then it would, have negative repercussions. So, but I get
Halloween can be dicey. I fully respect that. I have seen some makeshift wannabes, but obviously no one is perfecting that suit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen a couple of nice ones people have done.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you still, and might be that more that Star Trek one, but even in some of the series, I think we licensed maybe a handful of years ago, but like the Earth Alert and Word Power, you're still wearing them. So I mean,
Yeah.
It is definitely part of when you go on shows, I'm guessing, do you still wear?
Yes, I do. I'm not wearing it right now, but yeah, I still wear the costume, and I still love doing live shows. I don't do many. I do, well, before COVID, I was doing, maybe a dozen a year, maybe a little bit less. I had a man out. I ran a company that did school shows. I had 7 actors at a time, all wearing copies of my suit and going out and doing shows in schools. That lasted for a number of years as well, while I was constantly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, here, I thought you were going to take your sweater off and show the suit.
Yeah, it would be great. It would be great.
I'm teasing. No, it's really amazing. And just to maybe speak to that amazing history and legacy that you built. And I mean, to be frank too, I mean, you're still so actively producing. I'll talk here in a moment about some of those things that you've done, but I will mention to our viewers here, when COVID hit, John was the first producer to call me and say, "Hey, Anne, I want to create I want to create a program for kids to teach them about COVID. in a way that is a bit different from what they're maybe seeing on the news. We want to tell them the facts, but we want them to maybe take some of the fear out of it, or just to
Yeah.
address it in a way that was very kid friendly. So I really commend you for that, and that is available too on our products and our subscription. So
Yeah, I thought, I mean, within a few days of this, back in February, I thought this has got to be really scary. I mean, if it's scary for grown-ups, it's got to be really scary for kids. This was right in the really early stages of it. And fortunately, you said yeah, and that was a really good. I really enjoyed doing that project. Now it's everything is actually on that show still accurate, but except the number of people who have, that time we were talking about it when I made that, it was talking about reaching 100,000 Americans.
That's right. That's right.
Now
we're double that.
Yeah, it's just not killing them. No, just reaching them. Now we have 7 million. It was spreading. It wasn't
gosh.
that it was. I mean, it was. This has been such a fast moving and difficult disease. But yes, I did produce that and felt good. I mean, I felt it was an important thing to do. I try to do things at this point in my life where I feel actually I'm making a contribution. I'd rather do something that helps people. I mean, it sounds sort of trite, but I've reached a stage where most things that I do, if anything that I do, it's generally, to benefit others and not myself particularly. Or the benefit I receive is by benefiting others. Sounds corny, but it's true.
No, not in the least, especially knowing you. You're a very authentic and genuine person. So I think that really is from the heart. So I respect that. So let's talk a little bit about those 80s, because I think there's so much going on. So if you Google Slim Goodbody or check them out on Wikipedia, there are I think each one of these could probably be a story that I'm sure your kids get to hear, and I'm sure there's so much more. But I mean, when Slim Goodbody was aired on PBS, as I mentioned, it was the second highest rated show at that time. You were on the Today Show, Good Morning America, Nickelodeon, and then I even saw. Oh, what was that?
Richard Simmons. I don't know if you remember.
Simmons.
Yeah, I was on Richard Simmons.
Okay, I don't know this story. Could you share that with us?
Well, the only thing funny about that, yes, I mean, I went out, I can't remember where it was, to Richard Simmons' studio, and I was on his show, and I brought I have two children. I have a 42-year-old, it's his birthday today, by the way, September 23rd. He turns 40.
Happy birthday. Is it Luke or?
That's Devin.
Devin. Okay. Well,
Devin.
Happy birthday, Devin, if you're watching. I'm sure they followed your dad on social media, right?
Yeah. You know what? I think Devin couldn't have been more. This is a long time ago, because Devin couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old, and he's 42 now. So this goes back a long time. And part of the deal I led an exercise class because he did exercise, but I also was supposed to cook something. And frankly, I am not a cook. I eat very healthily. I've been a vegetarian for 40, 50 years. Fortunately, I have been in relationships with wonderful people who know how to cook and who love to cook, thereby letting me off the hook. But I had to come up with a recipe. And so I struggled, and I came up with banana pancakes. And so I was busy making it, and Richard turns around to my son Devin, says, "Does Dad make these all the time?" And he just looks and says, "No." And Richard says, "You're going to get it." And then Devin started crying, thinking he was in trouble. Anyway, that was my Richard Simmons story. But quite a character. Yeah. So I also did a show called, which I have a picture of somewhere. Now, probably nobody, because you're so much younger, but there used to be a show, To Tell the Truth, on TV, where 3 people would pretend. 1 would be the real person and 2 would be fakes. And so who was the real Slim Goodbody? And that was a real kick. Um,
Ooh, that's fun.
anyway,
I think there's a current version of that show going on right now, and I do remember that as a kid too.
yeah,
That's fun. Well, and you've done so many different things, like the 2014 Super Bowl commercial. I
yeah.
know there's
Cool.
all these people. So yeah, who was? How did that come about?
I just got a telephone call one day. I was just, blown away. Would you like to be on a Super Bowl commercial? I thought, yeah, totally. And it was an amazing experience. I have done my own producing. Pretty much everything I've ever done. I've worked for HBO. I did an interview series interview, but 99% of all the work I've ever done, I've created it myself, which basically means I try to do it on a I try to do high quality on a shoestring budget, because educational television is, you can make a good living, but it's not Hollywood. But this was
Right.
Hollywood. They flew me out. They put me in this fancy hotel. I got to the set. Everybody had their own trailer, with their own food, and they had celebrity chefs cooking. And who was I with? Mary Lou Retton was there. Hulk Hogan was there. People from Kiss, Cliff from Cheers was there. Alf from the TV show. It was so. I mean, obviously a puppeteer, not a puppet. And it was just so lavish. It was, I don't know how much money they spent. I mean, this was for Radio Shack.
Radio Shack?
Yeah,
Okay.
which subsequently went out of business. And if that's how they were spending their money, I can sort of understand. But basically, it was, the whole idea was how Radio Shack has changed. It isn't your 80s anymore. So it was a weird concept. So all these television people from the 80s marched into the store and took stuff. And then gradually it was called the 80s calling. And then it was transformed. So we all rushed in, and it was wild. It was wild. And then I told everybody, hey, because it's a big deal. You're on Super Bowl commercial. I was on for maybe
Right.
a third of a second,
I'll admit I did have to watch it this morning because I was like, I don't
get more times because it's I
I
when
saw
the
you
first
twice.
come in, I'm there for a second, and then I'm passing on. I did like a number of things, but 30-second spot with 25 stars. They're
No. But you had to be there. You were part of the 80s. I mean, I think, aren't you standing next to Hulk Hogan when you come into the store? I think it's like Mary Lou Retton, and then it's like you and Hulk Hogan. And to me, at least me, in my world, and I'm seeing some comments in here going, I used to watch Slim Goodbody as a kid. You were such an iconic person in our childhood. So you 100% were needed to be in that the 80s called.
Yeah, it was
So how fun. I mean, most of what you've done, like you said, has been so strategically placed in the educational space. Your passion and desire to create content to really change, the scope and sequence of what young people are exposed to, how they're exposed to it, and the information they receive. So I really feel like it's just so commendable, your work, especially when, you're not always getting to be put up in trailers and do fancy things like some of the other markets. So we appreciate it in our world. And for those of you that are just joining us again, my name's Ann Feldkamp. And I'm the director of acquisitions for Infobase rather. And I'm here today with John Burstein, or as many of you know him as Slim Goodbody. And we're talking about the content that he has produced over the years, which is available on our streaming platforms of Learn 360 and Just for Kids, but also just talking about his history and producing content and the experiences that have come with him along the way. And so it's really fun hearing about some of this.
One thing I want to tell your listeners is about desk size. I want to say that now, because with kids at home, if they're at home, if they haven't gone back to school, that was a series I created specifically to bring physical education into the classroom. I struggled with that because PE classes were being cut like crazy. So I wanted to link each class to a theme. So every week I deal with a theme that is being taught, whether it's Explorers Day and the exercises are all about, kind of creeping through the woods, or Groundhog Day. And I built the series of exercises sort of around the theme. So as a teacher or as a parent, anybody who's going to do it, you can teach the lesson about voting. I had marching. There's a good one coming up, right? I mean, kicking off a campaign. So we do some kicking, and then there's parading and sort of all kinds of exercises that are tangentially, raising your hand, moving your hands that relate to voting. And plus each show is brought to you by a different state. So you can learn a little bit about geography. And I think it's a different sort of take. There's the Slim Goodbody stuff, which is strictly about health, either about your body. Then I have things about being a good, media wise. I have things about being a good listener and asserting yourself. Those are sort of health related. This one, obviously, it's physical fitness, so it's health related, but I try to really tie it to a broader curriculum. And I think it's a valuable piece right now.
I can say it really is. And I think I've seen personally, I've done a lot of our workshops and trainings over the years, and I've come back to districts or schools, and that specific series is one that teachers have told me, oh, I'm so glad you introduced me to that, because like you said, it doesn't have to be a takeaway. It's not like, okay, we're going to stop talking about our stop the learning of social studies and we're going to carve out time for this. It's, hey, let's spend 15 minutes, as the name says, desk-ercise. All of the activities can be done for the student next to their desk, and there's different variations for students based on different needs or what they're capable of, and they can do these activities. I mean, you're not having the students running around the classroom or running around the area. They're these small activities, but like you said, something as simple as kicking off a campaign. So you're teaching about something and then you're giving them the activity. And what a great way to connect the lesson and really help it to be memorable. So yeah, for those of you,
social distance too, because you are just around your desk. So
yes. Oh, what a great point.
So I think that it's I would recommend that to check that out.
It's really fun, and it has a fun animated. You have the desk, right? The desk talks,
desk and a chair talking, and there's all animations all around me. As I'm talking about, Groundhog Day. We got the groundhog, and we got all kinds of. It's engaging. I'm very proud of that series.
And it builds upon itself. So if you're a teacher and you're wondering what this is, definitely check it out. It's not going to be something where you come to it and you're left with a new search to do the following week. It really follows you through the whole year. So it's something, and a lot of your series are like that. You have the This Day in History, the We the People, Extreme Questions, Earth Alert. There's one for every day. Yeah.
I have the Daily Almanac, but the We the People I want to recommend too, because people are talking about civics now, the importance of civics. You look at our society, the trouble that we are having, the anger and the fighting going back and forth, the polarization. These are 1-minute spots, very quick, about what our country is. It's not taking a side, but it explains the branches of government. It explains how a law gets passed. It explains it just explains our history and who we are. It's a really important. Civics is just not taught very much anymore. History is taught, but really to understand, have a greater sense of what our country is built on, I think it's another valuable, and again, one that I'm very proud of that I did. It's because it's, I think kids can really relate. At any rate, that's another thing to look at.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something else I've heard from teachers, is especially those series where you have them, they're like a minute or two long. Desk-ercise is, I think, like 10 minutes long about that. So that's more like
it could be 7 or 8. Yeah, maybe between 8 and 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. But a lot of those, like you mentioned, like the We the People, maybe you're not teaching civics, right? But I had lots of teachers tell me that as the students are coming, and this is in a in-person setting, but I think there could be many applications too in an online setting as well. But as the students are coming into the class, or maybe they're taking attendance, they'll play your videos. Here's the 1 minute. And it's a way for the students to get in, they're engaged, they're watching this media. It's always fun. You always express things in a way that is a really clear message to the students. And maybe they're taking attendance, or it's just like a bell beater, or one of those kinds of things that teachers love about your content. And the fact that there are, I believe with all of them, there's 365. So we the people, you're getting one for every day of the year. So a lot of what John has created supports the teacher the whole year, or in the case of a curriculum program, you're really giving teachers something where once they find your series, it sticks with them the whole year, and you're not left searching for something new the next day. So for those of you that are watching us, I really encourage you to go in, log into Learn 360 or Just for Kids, and do a search for some of these series we're talking about, or Slim Goodbody. If you are not a current subscriber, if you go to infobase.com, you can log in and get a free trial to find out more about our resources that we provide. I'm seeing some comments coming in, John, saying what Heather has said, her son has been watching and exercising while learning. So that's great. I'm sure over the years you've heard so many stories or stories. Are there any stories that maybe have resonated with you of students, or that parents or teachers have shared with you? Or too many to count?
There have been a lot. They're all small. I did get a letter from somebody who teaches autistic education, and found that working with Slim was very valuable for that. The kids could somehow relate. So it was sort of touching story. I got an email speaking about Halloween from this was a few years back, a Marine in Afghanistan who wanted my costume. He and all of his buddies were in the Marine base, remembered Slim, and wanted to get a copy, my costume. One of the really interesting things is I know somebody in my family, I can't go too much, who's in the CIA, and his boss loved me when she was young. So they asked for a picture, and apparently I'm on the wall of some CIA office saying, "Hi, be well." I thought that was very cool. But mostly I get letters, and many letters. People will say, "Oh, I became a nurse or I became a doctor." I take those with a huge grain of salt. I don't think there's any one influence, but it's nice that I think what I've done has been to contribute positively to kids feeling about themselves. Everything you mentioned before about emotional health. I've incorporated the idea that, you should feel good about yourself through everything. Music works that way. It makes people feel better. I've incorporated a lot of music. I think I've made positive contributions, and frankly, you can't really ask for more. To have built a career where you've actually helped people, children. How lucky can you get? That's pretty lucky.
Well, on that theme, I'll say I'm lucky. I feel lucky to have the relationship with you that we do, and to be able to bring your content to our educational community is amazing. And I'm just thankful for all of those experiences that you create for our teachers and our students. And I know you said not one person, but you have been, you planted the seed, I will say, for a lot of people when it came to their interest in health and fitness, and in so many things. I feel like when we're talking about maybe the humanities, even, there's just been so many opportunities that you've been in. And I love to hear that story of just, when people get older, like the Marine or the CIA story, it's like, yeah, you're still sticking with us. And so I'm excited. And I love, because, I know every few months I feel like you call me and you say, "Hey, Ann, what do you think about this idea?" And I just love that you continue to want to have that effect on young people. So thank you, John, for all you do. We appreciate you greatly here at InfoBase, all of us. I'll say, hopefully I speak for all of our Facebook community when I say thank you. There's lots of people that are giving us hearts and
Oh,
you know,
nice.
hearts and love. So I'm sure as people watch this, we'll hopefully get some more of those reactions. If you have any questions or comments, please do let us know, even if it's after this, if you're watching this, you know, after school. I know right now it's about 2 o'clock my time. So we might have some people that are watching this later. Pop your questions and comments on. We'll answer them after the fact, or at least I'll try to answer them. Maybe if they need John's feedback on, I'll ping you, John, and see if we need to get any answers. But I'm guessing we're probably going to get a lot of people just saying how much they love you, how fun it was to hear some of those behind the scenes stories of Slim Goodbody. I'm not going to give out your address and phone number for Halloween costumes, I promise. And and with that being said, I'll just say thank you again, and hopefully we can have you back and talk more about some of the work you've done in the future. But for now, I'll say thank you so much. And
thank you, Ann. You've been a treasure. You've been a real treasure to work with and to know. Lots of love, and we'll see you.
Thank you. Oh, I feel the same. Very mutual. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.